something that has been bothering me more so lately than when it actually happened. There was a movie that came out, and it was a good movie. A movie that I really liked a lot. I saw it twice on opening day because I liked it that much. And hearing people talk about it, they rant and rave about the last bit of said movie, which is really funny to me because it surprised a lot of people that this particular movie went the direction that it did when I had it figured out years before it even came out. The movie in question is Star Trek Into Darkness. A little bit of a background on my part. Growing up, I was a Star Wars kid. Star Wars. Wars. I grew up with the original trilogy in the black box set with the interviews with George Lucas in front of each of the movies. And I watched those over and over and over and over again. What I did not watch when I was a kid was Star Trek. So I never got to see The Next Generation, or the original series, or Voyager, or DS9, or Enterprise. None of it. When asked which one I liked, Star Wars or Star Trek, I would say Star Wars, and then they would say, would you ever watch Star Trek? And I would just instinctively go, no, because I liked Star Wars, and I had heard nothing about Star Trek. Nothing good, nothing bad. And then 2009 rolls around, and my mom, my dad, and my grandfather on my mom's side, so her dad, they all wanted to go see the new Star Trek movie, and they brought me along with them. Because, like, if anything, I wouldn't care about the Star Trek aspect of it, I would just care about that it was an action movie. I ended up really liking it. All of the references that were in the 2009 movie to any of the old Star Trek stuff, I didn't get, because I had never seen any of the old Star Trek stuff. So I just went into it purely blind to Star Trek. Now, between knowing absolutely nothing about Star Trek and 2009, I had learned some stuff. I had learned about Captain Kirk. I learned about Spock. I knew about the Starship Enterprise. And I knew about the Wrath of Khan. That's all I knew. Those were the four things that I knew that were associated with Star Trek. That was it. So seeing the new movie, and by that time I had been submerged in nerddom. So when they talked about the whole time travel plot of it, where the original Spock and I guess the original Nero, which I'm pretty sure Nero has never existed outside of the 2009 movie, but Nero Prime and Spock Prime traveling back in time, and Nero Prime altering the events of the past to change the future, knowingly or otherwise, sending it on a different course of history, I understood that plot. I was completely behind it. I was like, all right, this is basically saying, in movie terms, not in fandom terms, but in movie terms, we are wiping the slate clean, and we are starting from scratch. Now, when that movie was done, and I was happy with it, and I bought it out of the $5 bin, because at that time, that's about as much money as I had. As soon as I heard that there was just talk of a second movie, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I knew for a fact that if they were going to do a second movie, it was going to be Wrath of Khan. I knew that it was going to be Wrath of Khan. Because essentially, what the 2009 Star Trek was saying is that all of this happened, like it's basically like, it's like rebooting a universe, but not really. Because it's everything has happened, and then we are jumping from this point back to the beginning, and starting over. Retreading the same stuff. Only it's going to be different. Now, I know the first Star Trek original series motion picture had nothing to do with Romulans. So that's where the movie varied. And I think that's another reason why a lot of people were just being like, oh, it's a reboot. They're going to do a bunch of whole new stuff. New cast, new stuff. Where I was just, it's going to be Wrath of Khan. And I said that outright. As soon as I heard, like, hey, you know they may be making another Star Trek movie. Oh, it's going to be Wrath of Khan. You think? No, I know. I know it is. I didn't, not that smugly, but I knew it was going to be Wrath of Khan. And so, 2013 rolls around, go and see the movie with a buddy from college, and I see the movie, loved it. Loved it from beginning to end. Beginning to end. Yes, there were little nitpicks every now and then, but I loved the movie all the way through. Not, oh, I loved 4/5 of it and the last fifth was good. No, I loved the whole movie. Went and saw it that night with a buddy that I had known from high school. And then we ended up going to the same college, but at different times, so we never saw each other at college. Not important. We go and see it. So I saw it twice in one day. Just to see, one, because I really wanted to see it again. Two, to see if a second viewing would alter my feelings at all. Nope. Saw it again. Had the same exact feelings I had the first time I saw it. Now, the scene in question for that movie, and if you're watching this review not seeing any other reviews when the movie came out and having not seen the movie, super spoiler warning, just gonna say, the scene in question comes at the end of the movie. And this is when the ship has been bombarded by this, I think they called it a Nemesis class starship, that was built by Admiral Wallace, played by Peter Weller, with help from Khan, which is a whole plot point for another video, because this video is talking about this one scene, and that's it. If I want to do a full movie review, it's going to be in another video. But the ship has been bombarded, just shot to hell. The reactor core that powers the ship has gone dead. The ship is dead in space. Luckily for them at this point in time, they are right outside Earth orbit. So like they don't need to get back to Earth because they are essentially there. Unfortunately, with the ship dead in space, the Earth's orbit has latched onto it and is starting to pull it closer to the planet. Which, without the warp core, not the warp core, the reactor core, without it to, power the ship is going to be pulled pretty quick and dead. So, Scotty and Kirk go down to the core room. I don't know if it has a different name. I'm calling it the core room. Scotty goes over to a little computer panel. Tick, 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 tick. The core is misaligned. The little pylons that hold the core, it's misaligned, and there's no way to get in there at present because the entire chamber is flooded with radiation, which will kill you because of how much radiation there is in there. It's a reactor core. Reactors spew radiation like a hose spews water. And so Scotty turns to Kirk and says, "There's nothing we can do, the ship is gone." And so Kirk says, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, he's basically, "No, she's not." Knocks out Scotty, just freaking punches him in the face, puts him in his seat, puts the little electronic seatbelts on him, opens the glass door, goes in the glass door shuts, and then opens the big old turnstile door to get into the reactor. Fixes the reactor core by impractically kicking the crap out of the bottom pylon, which is, it's facing at an angle, and he's kicking on it in a downward kick. So if the way he were kicking it were to actually move it, the way it would move it is down even farther. Not kick, 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 boom, which is what happens. But he saves the ship right as it goes to the cloud layer, giving you the fake out, and then you hear the engines roar to life, which sound like an explosion, which is a second fake out, which I thought was a nice touch. It's like, it's the Enterprise isn't going to die. But the engine roaring does give you that split-second hint of doubt of, oh, hey, maybe the trailers were wrong, and this is the last movie. The Enterprise is gone, And so, ship comes back out of the clouds, triumphant Star Trek music plays, and everyone on the bridge, Sulu, Spock, Uhura, and all the other nameless bridge characters, because Chekhov is down in maintenance due to plot points. Spock gets an alert on the comm from Scotty after Scotty woke up, and he says, "Spock, get down here." Spock goes down, and he sees Kirk behind the glass after crawling his way back out, super dosed in radiation. And Kirk closes the main door, so he's between the turnstile door and the glass door. And Spock is on the outside. And so Spock has to watch Kirk die. And if you know Wrath of Khan, it's flipped. because Wrath of Khan is where Spock dies, and Kirk has to watch him die. Well, for Into Darkness, they have switched places, and the dialogue in Wrath of Khan, I actually still, to this day, have not seen Wrath of Khan all the way through. I have seen bits and pieces of it. I don't have a copy to just sit down, pop in, and watch. One of these days, I will watch it. I swear, I will watch Wrath of Khan because I really want to see it all the way in its entirety. But I know the majority of the dialogue from it is "Ship Out of Danger." So that's the one that everybody always starts off with. "Ship Out of Danger," and then the whole talk of the Kobayashi Maru. He's like, "I never took the test. What do you think of my solution?" And the talk like that. Well, that never comes up in Into Darkness because the whole Kobayashi Maru thing happened in the 2009 film. So in this one, it's Kirk talking to Spock, asking him, he's like, how do you, the whole not feeling thing, how do you do that? As he's, fearing for himself because he knows he's about to die. And Spock says, right now I don't know. Because I am feeling a flood of emotions that I have not felt, that I have only felt one or two times before. And he's sitting there and he's like, earlier in the movie, there's a scene where Kirk and Spock are talking to each other. Kirk has been demoted because of plot points, and Spock has been transferred to another ship. And Kirk is talking to Spock, and he says, he's like, I'm going to miss you. And he's like, I will miss you too. And like a little dialogue, and then it's like, he's like, why I went back for you. Which if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into it. He's like, why I went back for you. Why I wanted to save you. And then the unspoken part is, because you're my best friend. And Spock just stands there and looks at him. And he has nothing to say. Because I guess he didn't know. And so Kirk kind of just walks off. And he's like, serious? And he just walks off. Well, now Spock is effectively having to watch his finally realizing this. He's like, he has to now watch his best friend die. And they do. The one thing I still thought it was pretty cool, but in a sense, it's kind of corny. Right before Kirk dies, he puts his hand up on the glass, and Spock puts his hand over Kirk's, but he does the Vulcan salute. And then Kirk, with his hand there, matches the Vulcan salute. And not gonna lie, liquid pride was shed at that scene from me both times I saw the movie. And it still gets me a little bit when I rewatch it on the DVD. Now, the problem I have... Oh, and then after Kirk dies, Spock does the Khan yell. Because he blames Khan for Kirk's death, which is justifiable. The problem I have is with just about every reviewer, critic, what have you, that I have watched do a review for this movie. Be it the nostalgia critic Doug Walker and his brother Rob, Team Cinema Snob, the three of them that did the midnight screening and did a review for it, Film Crazy Adam, I can't really remember Linkara's vlog for Star Trek. I can't really remember what he and his brother thought about it because it's been so long since I've seen their review for it. But so I'm not going to count him in on this. But the other three examples I mentioned, they all said the same thing, and it just bugs me. They all effectively said that when it got to that part of the scene, whatever emotion they were supposed to be feeling between Kirk and Spock, mostly sadness, which is kind of what the scene was going for, whatever emotion was supposed to be felt, they could not feel because the fact that they were re-quoting Wrath of Khan, they found it so distracting that they just couldn't get past it to just let the scene play out and feel what they were supposed to feel. And they all kind of had the notion of that they were surprised that it went there. Like you didn't know they were gonna do it. Like you didn't know that the second Star Trek movie, basically starting over the original series, was gonna do the second movie in the original series. I had that pinned back in 2010 when they first talked about doing a second Star Trek movie. And I knew that the majority of that dialogue was I'm not going to say rehash, because I don't think it's a rehash. I saw it as a tribute, or as a nod to the original Wrath of Khan. I did not see it as them rehashing. I did not see it as them being lazy. I did not see it... I sure as hell didn't see it as distracting. Because that tells me that you went into this movie ready and willing to nitpick it to death. Because whenever I hear somebody talk about a movie and they say, and like a plot point happens, and they go, oh, I don't know, I don't care, I wasn't paying attention, that tells me that you're going to this movie purely because either your job says you have to go see this movie, or someone dragged you to this movie, and you're being forced to watch it, like, against your will. And so you don't care, you don't give a damn, you're just there to waste your 2 hours with your friends or for your job. And knowing that all three of the examples that I listed, all of them are big, huge Star Trek nerds, the fact that it took them out of the movie, like it pulled you out of the experience, that they were saying the same lines some of the same lines that were said in Wrath of Khan, it just baffles me. It baffles me, really, because I've been in movies that remind me of other stuff, like just an example right off the top of my head. Toy Story 2, when Zurg tells Buzz Lightyear that he is his father. And he does the Luke, and the second Buzz does the Luke Skywalker yell. That was funny. I laughed at that when I saw it in the theaters, and I laughed at it again when I watched it later as an adult. And it doesn't, oh, it took me out of the movie because they were rehashing lines from Empire Strikes Back. Or, any of the live-action Transformer movies, or any of the Transformers series that rehash elements from the 1986 movie or the original G1 series. Like when Optimus Prime says, at the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall, in the 2007 movie, and at least 3 or 4 times in Transformers Prime, it didn't take me out of the movie or the episode because, oh, they said that in the 86 movie, they're just getting lazy. No, it didn't take me out of that. It's a line that Optimus Prime says, and to hear him say it again is a welcome treat, not an experience-ruining issue. Let's see, what's another one? Here's an obscure one that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but I always draw one. The bar scene in Attack of the Clones, referencing A New Hope. It's referencing its own stuff. Didn't take me out of it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was funny. It's one of the funnier bits of Attack of the Clones, which in my opinion is the worst of the prequels. Let's see. I don't know. Oh, okay. The pop culture references that the genie makes in Aladdin. Those are funny. They're meant to be funny. They're supposed to be funny. And if you believe the headcanon that Agrabah takes place after the apocalypse, they fit. I don't know where I stand on that one. I'm kind of 50-50. I don't know. I can't really think of any other references or homages that movies pay to other movies that a lot of people... Oh, okay. What about on the... More spoilers. The Nick Fury's gravestone in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, with the first line of the Bible verse that Samuel L. Jackson quotes in Pulp Fiction. I know a lot of people who laughed at that line. I laughed at that line, and I've never even seen Pulp Fiction. I've seen the bit, but I haven't seen all of Pulp Fiction. But did that take me out of the experience because they referenced another movie that Samuel L. Jackson was in? No. I laughed and thought it was funny. You know, what I find more and more prevalent, I think is the right word. And I've actually heard a lot of reviewers say this when they're getting angry over something in a movie. And I kinda agree with them on this statement, is that if you watch a critic for long enough, like take like the Nostalgia Critic, or Brad Jones, or Linkara, or Film Crazy Adam, or Hell, Siskel and Ebert. I never saw a lot of their stuff, but I'm just throwing them in there because I may or may not be right. I may or may not be right on any of them, but like watching someone from like an early part in their career to seeing them now, they tend to get more jaded the longer and longer they do what it is that they're doing. And Film Crazy Adam has actually said this in some of his reviews, where he feels that he's becoming more jaded. And I'm not saying that all critics after a while become jaded. Don't misconstrue me on that. But I do feel that a lot of the critics that I used to like, I would look forward to their take on something, and whether they liked it or they didn't, I would always find something interesting about what they had to say. And lately, each of the ones that I would follow, it just seems like they're becoming more and more just angry and bitter whenever a movie like does something stupid or does something that they don't agree with. I don't know, maybe it's just something that I see, maybe I'm right, I could be 100% wrong. But no. Final word before I wrap this up, because this is another half-an-hour video. I didn't have a problem with the death scene in Star Trek Into Darkness doing the same thing that was going on in from Wrath of Khan, because I saw it as either an homage or just a throwback or whatever to the original source material, instead of a blatant ripoff or the writers being lazy or whatever excuse you may have. But that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you think. I don't want to start a flame war in the comments, but I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Alright, I'm Spider Prime 1, signing off.